Well, you know what? It's Thursday. It's lockdown again, and here we are again with our weekly catch up with Sam White. Hey, how you doing? Did you get the tent up?
Not yet. No. You know what? It's a terrible state of affairs, isn't it? I said to Jenny, like, we're getting the video out and we're going to go and do it, and she's like, can't we just pay the gardener to put it up? I was like, oh my God, is this what we've reduced ourselves to? We need to get a man to help. So yeah, I and the gardener came and did the garden and actually even pulled out the small amount of posts that we had in the ground. So I'm gonna have to start from scratch again, unfortunately.
I'm surprised that the kids haven't YouTubed it and worked out their own kind of alternative tent world.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're that impressed, to be honest with you.
Oh.
They were much more impressed with the idea of creating a trampoline park in the back garden, which I also thought was a really good idea until they bounced off my rebounder and it looked like they were potentially going to like bounce onto the ground and injure themselves. And I suddenly realized that this is exactly the sort of activity that we're being advised against doing so that we don't put any pressure on the NHS. So I then calmed them right down and we started doing some colouring.
Okay, so, yeah. Well, there you go. Well, all I'm asking is that your Easter egg hunt or equivalent Easter bunny challenge, whatever, is you're nailing it on Sunday.
Yeah, I did point out the fact that we have a puppy who isn't quite house trained yet, and the puppy keeps leaving little presents for us. And the kids sounded so excited about, oh, what's that smell? Oh, let's go on a poop hunt. And I was like, it's not quite an egg hunt, is it? It's yeah, we're descending here somewhat. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, poo hunt versus. Well, yeah. There you go.
Nobody wants to go hunting poop, Simone.
Well, we'll catch up next week about that one. So how are you doing? Cabin fever set in, or are you okay?
No, I'm all right, actually. There you go. That's that noise. You see, every time I do this, I have to go and shut the door. Last week it was the kids. Today it's the puppy.
And what puppy? What have you got?
It's a Yorkie poo. Yeah, I veer between absolutely loving him and him driving me demented because yeah, little dogs are needy, aren't they? And they can be troublesome.
Well, you know what? At least if it's, I know you don't need anything to keep you distracted or motivated, but at least there's another little person out there who doesn't care about COVID-19, and you know, so you've got another little bit of just a little bit of focus over there with the what's he called?
Nibbles, we let the kids name him. So I'm now also subjected not only to having a very little yappy dog, but when we walk down the street, I have to, in all kind of seriousness, go, Nibbles, stop it. And Nibbles likes to nibble as well. He's teething at the moment. So yeah. Bless him. But you're right. It's been great for the kids because obviously it's another little soul in the house to love, and I think animals are really good just generally. I mean, I had Dobermans growing up, but I haven't had a pet up to now, but they're good for calming you down. They're good for just that kind of, there's just something a bit magical, I think, about animals.
There is. It's that whole pet therapy piece, isn't it, where you know they look at you, it doesn't matter how hungry they are or whatever, but it's that always that love, isn't it? But especially if you've got food.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, where are we now? We're 3 weeks in, if you like, to this whole new norm. But it's the time, isn't it, where stuff can happen, some great, you know, out of these big crisis, opportunities can come. And has anything, are you really surprised if something hasn't formed in your world or accelerated in your world?
Yeah, so you never want to leave an entrepreneur with too much time on their hands, do you? Because it gets dangerous. I can tell the nervousness in my team. They keep trying to take hold of my calendar to distract me with stuff that we already need to do, so I don't bring in anything else. But you know, that's never going to be me. And I've talked many times over the years about my frustrations as I would say, is an entrepreneur that doesn't necessarily fit the mold. So, you know, statistically, there is a lot less female entrepreneurs. Statistically, there's less entrepreneurs in the north, and you know, and when you look at how they're supported, there is a real disparity in the availability of support to certain groups. And so I've kind of ranted a little bit about it on a number of occasions, because you know, I've had a business for over 20 years and I've always really struggled to get support. I've struggled to get support from the banks. I've struggled to kind of get investment into the business, and we've pretty much always been profitable and managed to grow and develop. So it was kind of like, you know, some things I'll always accept my own part and my own responsibility, but there's something here that's not quite right. So I got so frustrated with it last year that I started to think about the idea of, could I do something to help others as well? Because I have, you know, I've got my battle scars. I've also found other ways to make things work when the most obvious route isn't available to you. And I came up with this idea of a kind of a business that has a bit of a different face to it, that helps support other businesses get funding, or build their investor story, or even to get access to capital in different ways that they might not have considered. And so I'd started working on that, and we'd sort of started to build a brand, and then it's kind of accelerated a bit last week. So I think I'm probably going to be launching Social Capital very soon. And I think for me, and maybe this is just the way that I'm wired, but I cannot sit in the negative. Like, I just can't do it. And, you know, what's going on at the moment, it would be very easy to get dragged into that, and it's heartbreaking. And there's, you know, people are going to lose family members, and the NHS is likely going to really struggle to cope. And, you know, I think if you allow yourself to sit in a place that says the economy is going to collapse, you know, people are going to die, bad things are going to happen, it will just take you under. And I would rather look at it through a lens of, there will be the opportunity to maybe do things differently at the end of all of this. We're already seeing, you know, and I had a chat with Donna Scully yesterday. We did a podcast just about COVID, because we both wanted to talk about it, and actually it was really cathartic for me. I'm hoping it was for her, but I really felt that we were syncing on the same page about the stuff that we're worried about and the things that we think are going to come out of this. But one of the things we both said is that there's going to be an opportunity at the end of this for new types of businesses with a different type of moral compass and a different approach to have some space to be able to grow. And there will unfortunately be casualties off the back of this, and you know, something has to fill that gap. And so how do we want to fill that gap, and what kind of businesses do we want to fill that gap? And so for me, if we can help support businesses that think outside of just the black and white, we've got to make a profit and that's it. And I think businesses that have more of a social agenda do hit a bit of a brick wall. I know I have. I mean, when I've gone and talked to private equity and I start talking about wanting to give money to charity and do X, Y, Z, you can see them glaze over. You know, all they care about is the bottom line, and they want that hockey stick to be as quickly as possible with, you know, very little distraction. So if you're saying that you can still build a sustainable business and a business that works, but actually it might take a little bit longer because you want to do it the right way and do the right things, there needs to be a home for that. There needs to be somewhere that those people can go and not feel like they're walking into the dragon's den. You know, I don't know if you've ever been in front of these guys. I mean, we've talked about corporate culture and boards, and you know, it's uncomfortable for people like us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I've struggled because I've sort of set up with not necessarily a product, but a campaign or a movement. And it's always been, I think I've always struggled because I've never tried to replicate anything. So I'm not a big fan of like that cookie cutter approach, because I feel it has to fit with my own purpose, my own values. And we've been doing something really interesting recently. We were trying to look at what are the traits and what are our guiding principles, if you like, for sort of this, again, a little bit of technology that we're building, which I never thought I'd be into. I never thought I was an entrepreneur. And it is interesting, we look at, I always talk about paying it forward being the number one, the second one being generous, and the third one being make a difference. And for certain organisations, they just think you're trying to be Mary Poppins. And I've always felt, whilst I have not paid myself in 5 years, does that make me an absolutely terrible entrepreneur? Possibly, but I think there's always been an element for me. It was build the field and it will come, and that does drive my husband mad. But what I mean about that was build this huge community and huge campaign, and you just place where stuff and magic happens. And again, this isn't about wearing sparkly shoes and hitting them together and go, look, we've made it happen. I know that there is, there's so much evidence, and I've got so much anecdotal evidence out there of when I've connected people, or you've brought individuals together where they thought they couldn't, but between them then they realise that we can, and that to me, I think I've had to beat away some of my own demons when I have had these conversations, and I've not necessarily had that product suite or this offer, because I've always wanted to, I can't take money off people if I don't really believe in what the output or what we're trying to achieve. And that's not trying to be any kind of hero in this. I just feel it's stealing, and also it's not just stealing of money, it's stealing of energy. So I know we spoke about this last year before we did that great Innovate UK interview, wasn't it, which was just, I loved it, just having this chat with yourself. Well, we'd also had that chat about this alternative source to do things, because there's not just one rule book. So COVID-19 is responsible for helping or just accelerating what you're doing around this new offer, then that's fantastic. And that, I think, is something that not just Northern Power Women, but there's people out there that are going to absolutely want this. And also at this climate, at this time, these aren't the people watching Netflix. These are the people who are trying to desperately work out how they pivot their business or what they do, or and not just some of the craft stuff that is happening, but there's people out there that are genuinely have got great opportunity, but haven't necessarily got that way to fund it to happen, or even just someone to talk to that goes, this is absolutely bob on. You should do it.
No, 1,000%. And you and I are very similar like this. I always, if anybody reaches out and says, can I just talk this through, I'll chat to them. And sometimes, I know that that's helped me greatly in my career. And sometimes that's all people need, is just that opportunity to chat through and have somebody to bounce off and to go, well, have you thought about it through this lens? And really, this idea is just an extension of that. There'll be some services that are appropriate to be offered at times, but there might be a set of circumstance where we just help guide them in a different direction, and that's totally cool too. I mean, it does sound trite, and we do both sound like Mary Poppins, but genuinely, I want to do good shit. That is, and if me helping somebody who has a business that I think it has the potential to do good in the world has that kind of positive footprint, then fantastic. And yes, I'm an entrepreneur and I want to build businesses and I want them to be sustainable, but I don't want to build businesses that I'm not proud of. I want to build businesses that I can go, I did that and it did some good, and there's so many I think, so many aspiring entrepreneurs that have all the right ingredients, and they've found a problem to solve that's the right problem to solve, and they've got the enthusiasm and the passion. They just haven't got the experience to be able to pull it all together yet. And there should be more support for those people, because otherwise, and you're absolutely right, otherwise all we get is a replica of every business that's gone before. And we already know a lot of those businesses aren't very good. They're not businesses. You've seen it now in this crisis. If we don't wake up now and say that businesses need to be built differently, when the hell are we going to? Because you can see now there are certain businesses that have said, screw everybody else. I'm firing everybody overnight. I'm not doing anything to help. I'm doing X, Y, Z, because they are purely driven by the bottom line. And then you've got businesses over here that are actively trying to do the right thing and trying to make it work for everybody else. Well, I would bet money on the fact that these businesses have probably had a harder time securing funding in their journey than these businesses have. And that ain't right. That, you know, not if we want to build a new world off the back of this that we all want to be part of. We want to make sure that those businesses represent that too.
And do you know what? It's really interesting. We had our very first, can you believe it, 5 years in, and my very first Northern Power Women board meeting on Monday this week. So
Great.
we were due to have it. I know, big girl and everything. On the 16th of March, which is due to be the day of the awards, which obviously did not happen. 7th of December, everyone, day for your diaries. And it was brilliant because these are a board that I have assembled of, you know, cross-sector, different levels. You know, I've got a really great young female, you know, tech specialist in there. She's amazing. I've got, you know, public sector. I've got charity. It's fabulous, you know. But all people who've walked with me and supported and everything. And that was one of the questions, you know, that we talked about. It wasn't they talked at me, it was how we talked together. It was about, you know, the financial sustainability and the funding. And I have to say, you know, all of them know that I've been fearful of funding because I didn't think I could ever present a viable, you know, business model, so to speak, because I'm doing this, I'm not selling widgets kind of thing. Yeah. And they were brilliant because they're like, well, you know, we can help you sort of in that different language. And I think I'm really excited, you know, because we talked about this, as I say, before sort of the back end of last year. So we are going to take this into a separate discussion. I think that we're going to put out for our Northern Power Women community, aren't we? And we're going to go out, we're going to ask people what they want to know, and we'll come together in a really purposeful and impactful Zoom webinar or and let's help people, you know.
You know, I want to make sure we get it right as well. When we first talked about a launch, we were going to actually stick it out there and ask for almost like a sample group of people that have these problems, for them just to have a forum to talk about what those problems are, so that we can go away and work out how we get those solutions to them. So I don't want to go with we've got all the answers. I know my problems, I know the challenges that I had, but that their problems will be varied. So, you know, I think creating that opportunity for people to talk and say, you know, this, you know, I'm pre-revenue, or I've got this challenge over here, or what. I really want to do that, and to do that obviously with you guys would be absolutely incredible.
But what an amazing legacy. And I think I'm really passionate about what everyone's legacy is coming through this, because you can already see there's so many different things out there, but I think this is it's thoughtful, it's relevant, it's timely, it's needed, more importantly. But, you know, when we're looking back in a year of how we've mourned, survived, celebrated, collaborated, there's, you know, I think for this to come through it, because we talked about, you know, it's alternative routes. You know, there is not one set path that is laid with gold. It's got to look, you know, and I think often as entrepreneurs we can work in isolation, or it can be lonely, even if we've got, especially those that have got a smaller team. You feel like you've got to take all the weight and stuff. So I think these forums and conversations, and like you say, even if it's only setting somebody off on another path, I know I've had multiple conversations over the last 3 weeks, Sam, and I wish I could have just dialed up my Instant Sam chatbot on some of those calls, because I don't have, you know, the expertise. I have the ability to connect and try and bring people in to try and help themselves or help each other. But you know, I worry about the, you know, people's thinking around this. So for you to be, you know, to have accelerated this and to be generously offering these conversations out to our community. I can't wait to do that. Just, it could be a long night, that's all I'm saying.
You know me, I love to talk. I was in a session with somebody the other day and they said, can you talk for 5 minutes? And everybody else was like, oh, you know, that bit, and I was still going. And I was like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. But, you know, I do think now more than ever, we need to be focused on the positives for the future, and to start having those conversations and to start talking to people that maybe are those new businesses for the future that we all want, and we want to see surviving and thriving off the out of the other side. Yeah, I think it's I think we should do it. We should do it.
Well, there we are then. And I think what's the quotation is, if it's not now, when, and if it's not you, then who? And
Yeah, exactly.
That's wrong, but I should have just owned it anyway. But listen, we'll get that date out to the community after Easter, because obviously you've got some Easter poo hunts to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and tents to do. And please stay away from the trampoline.
Yes.
You know, the NHS are not kidding when they say stay safe and stay at home. It's not stay
home.
I
just didn't realise I could be in my own home.
Listen, thank you again for another brilliant chat, and I'm really excited as each week this is our third week of having conversations. We don't have a sort of set sort of path we're going to take, which I don't think you should do with entrepreneurs anyway, but I think this is brilliant, and this is going to be so useful to so many out there, whether Northern Power women or not. You know, we'll put it out there and come in, join the conversation, change your path, because you know what, it's your organisation. You just told me that, Sam. It's your organisation. Yeah. You set the rules.
Yeah. Create your own universe.
Absolutely. So we'll see you next week. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.